non-judgmental, accept people for who they are, try to understand who they are, even if you don't understand their cultural background. I'm Nicolas, Kjaer, founder and CEO of premium leather brand Royal RepubliQ. I come from Denmark, where I'm born and raised, until I was my end 20s, where I moved to Amsterdam. After a short weekend, I got completely in love with the city, and a few months after, I lived in Amsterdam. My background is from a smaller village in the mainland of Denmark, where I lived until my start 20s, did my education in preschool for architecture, followed with 8 years in transport and logistics. And next to that, I always had a passion for aesthetics, for design, furniture especially, and rebuilt my first house when I was lived in Denmark and started my own little furniture collection. So when I was in my mid-20s, I wanted to explore the dreams of furniture architecture and started a little furniture agency. I traveled to Germany, to Cologne, met up with some different furniture companies, and I was lucky that with no experience, no nothing at all, these furniture guys saw some energy and passion in my approach. So I ended up coming home with 3 different furniture brands, which I tried to introduce to the Scandinavian markets. That was quite naive, but also quite experiencing and quite fun at the same time. Some of the furnitures I still have until today, and some of them have been collector's pieces. My family is, in a way, quite a normal Danish family. My father is an engineer. My mother has done different things, such as being hairdresser, graphic designer, seamstress. So the background of my parents are solid. They've been together for plus 50 years. And in the city I lived in, there was not a lot of aesthetics and design in just visually to every day. But on the other hand, there's a deep founded in cultural aesthetics in our country, where my parents' television for the first many years was Bang & Olufsen. I did not know what that was. It was just a TV. So there we could see that afterwards, in hindsight, I can see there is a general high focus on the aesthetics of furniture, how we live, how we are in choose quality over quantity. So, and I met, of course, some people in my upbringing. The majority of the people I met, spent my time with playing sports, still a lot of handball. They did not really think alike me. Though there was one person who, at a Christmas party, put me aside and said, "You're gonna be okay. We think different, but it's gonna be okay. Just keep doing what you want to do." At the time, it didn't ring any bells, but afterwards, of course, it resonated, and that's gave me some kind of belief in just do what you feel passionate about, what you want to do. So I've been trying to follow my inner passion for most of my life. Not always easy when you have a lot of options and possibilities, but most of the times that's what I did. I think we have to skip a generation My parents' generations are not very entrepreneurial, but on my grandparents' side, they were both on my mother's and my father's side were quite entrepreneurial. My grandfather on my father's side, he had a grocery store where he took care of the family, supplied the local citizen farmers, basically drove his own business. And on my mother's side, their family were running a sawmill. So they had a quite stable, strong business going on, which supplied food on the table for the entire families in that region. So probably it's from there that my entrepreneurial side was raised. My need of being who I am and let people be who they are. Just always has been with me. To be non-judgmental, accept people for who they are, try to understand who they are, even if you don't understand their cultural background or some other way of behavior. There growing up in a smaller city, smaller village, there's a high social need, high social rules that you automatically adapt to. I don't think it's just in Denmark or in the village I grew up in. I think it's in general, in smaller societies, you have a social unset ruling which you basically follow. And I did. I followed most of them, but I also questioned a lot of them all the time. So I had a high need of exploring other sides of life and see what happened out there in the world. So when I, in a way by coincidence, ended up in Amsterdam and saw people on bikes, a half-naked guy on roller skates, inliners with a G-string, just rolling down the street. And half an hour later, you saw a horse carriage with Heineken beer coming in the same way. I was like, wow, this city really has a open mindset, a high tolerance. People feel they can be who they want to be, and you basically can set your own rules. For the first couple of years, I lived upstairs a cross-dressing bar where I saw women in Volvos dropping off their men dressed up as women, and going into this bar and having a good night, and then go home to the family afterwards. It was mind blowing to see that kind of tolerance. So I kind of said, this city is something for me. If I want to dress up in women's clothes, I can do it. I don't have a need, and I didn't have the need, but it just felt like you are accepted as who you are. I saw bankers sitting in their suits, having a beer with a carpenter on a cafe. It seemed like people just coexisted and accepted who they are. I have dreams. I think that's an important feature, to be curious. Dreams makes you curious, and dreams can be achieved. When I was in Denmark and did my job as a forwarder in logistics, I had a high need of exploring other sides of myself. So my dream was to continue that path. And before I moved to Amsterdam, I was starting my own business. I worked together with a guy in Germany. We supplied China accessories, and I was starting to sell it next to my furniture in Scandinavia, and it went pretty well. But in that process, I also realized that money isn't everything. It's nice to have, but it doesn't fulfill you. So my dream was to work with something which could provide a living, at the same time could drive my passion. And more or less same time as Amsterdam started, I again by coincidence ended up producing some leather belts for a company in Denmark that grew into more, and suddenly I had a private label business doing leather belts and smaller leather goods. So that dream started to be, I can do more than what I've done. and this material and this path really can do something for me. Again, I grew up in this smaller society where I had the luck of having extremely good friends, which I still see today. At least we try to see each other once a year and around birthdays. And growing up there, the only thing we could do was hanging with your friends or doing sports. So that's what I did. And me feeling a little bit aside and still fitting in was kind of conflicting in a lot of ways. But found a way, and it was a fantastic childhood. So after that, most of my friends, they went to business academy. I went into a kind of technical preschool for architecture instead, because I couldn't see myself sitting and reading books and just gaining knowledge like that every day. So I went the other way. And after that education, I slowly already started to be a little bit what you today will call entrepreneurial. Back then, I was just curious to see what could be done, what opportunities are there in life. And then I started my education for being a forwarder. I met a lot of different people. I was in a small company in Denmark. So I was sent out with a little van and I met super interesting people in companies. And bit by bit, I picked up opportunities here and there. So I ended up at some point selling wine and selling paint at the same time. For me, it was not entrepreneurial. For me, it was just seeing, oh, these guys have that, and I can basically flip it into an opportunity over there and make a little extra side money. So in hindsight, that's in that age, 18, 20, where it started to really define that I was a person with an entrepreneurial mindset. Later on, it developed into too much more with importing of furniture and producing wash bags for a friend who had a patent on that. Yeah, and then leather belts started up, leather bags, and it just evolved into a mix of a lot. Also too much. It was too much, and I basically saw all these businesses and opportunities as one. It was just the same with different, with a different label on it, which makes it quite messy and quite hard for your surroundings to follow. So it's hard to get a full team to understand that. And the team spirit and team understanding of going in one direction is super important. But I learned that in that phase too, that from my days of sports, that you can be a good individual on the team, but you are basically nothing if the rest of the team is not supporting you and you are supporting them. So I had to learn that in business as well, by flipping up a lot of different businesses and opportunities. But it ended up with settling down on one thing, at least for a period of 4 to 5 years was the commitment to focus on one thing. And that's where the passion was, that I could create. So that was furniture originally, but it ended up being the medium of leather. And you see here, I can basically create things.